Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Saturday's exciting edition of the DCEU Daily. Can you feel it? It feels like 1989 and the build-up and the hype engine for Batman 89, Tim Burton's Batman 89. It feels like that again with Matt Reeves' The Batman. But something very exciting happened yesterday, everyone. The box office projections for the opening weekend domestically came out for The Batman, and this is what they are. They're very impressive. So we're looking from anywhere from 135 to 185 million on opening weekend in the United States. I think WB are underplaying these projections because as impressive as these projections are, they're not accurate projections, because I believe The Batman is going to do more than that in opening weekend. I think Warner Brothers expect The Batman to go well over 200 million on opening weekend. It may even equal the opening box office for Spider-Man No Way Home. Now that's of course huge, but I expect it. Now of course this is very impressive considering we live in the era of bringing back Luke Skywalker as a cartoon, or we live in the era of bringing back previous actors from, who played Spider-Man and things like that, using stunts to put butts in seats. Where the Batman, all it's done is saying, right, we've got one of the best directors of all time to make a Batman film. That's enough, because I know because I've seen it, but even before I saw it, I knew this film was going to be something freakingly special. This is an original take on Batman. No tricks. Matt Reeves and the people producing, this film, people like Dylan Clark, have made it clear. We don't want our Batman to be part of the DCEU. That would have been easy for them, wouldn't it? That would have even put extra butts in seats. One thing we know about DC and WB, they expect their Superman movies and their Batman movies to make big money. And if they don't, you don't get to make any more. We saw it with Snyder's Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. We saw it with Man of Steel. If you don't bring in the money, the consequences are immediate, because Batman and Superman are the dons. They're the ones that should be bringing in $1 billion, at least $1 billion a picture. But the thing is with the Batman isn't only going to bring in $1 billion global run. No, it could reach near 2 billion when it's all said and done. And it's looking like Spider-Man No Way Home is itching to that magic figure as well. Something I also predicted. Look, the MCU has got a tapped in, ready-made audience. We know that. People will come in and watch any old shit from the MCU, and they did last year. They watched Black Widow, which was any old shit. They watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was any old shit, right? They came in to watch Hawkeye, even though they didn't have a good time watching it. We know this. DC live action is very different. DC live action has to make good content for it to be successful. They had to make a self-contained Joker movie, a good one, starring one of the greatest actors since the art form was created, right? Great movie, big box office, right? When we at DC make movies, right, they have to be so good, because we don't necessarily have that ready-made audience. We have DC fans, but DC fans are not going to embrace any old shit. We want our DC characters adapted in a great way, as they were in 89, as they were in 78 with Superman the movie. Need I go on? And we're very, very strict with our DC characters, us DC fans. We want something special to be done with them. And with the Batman, that's what's happened. So, it's funny actually, I saw the header for Ping Pong Flicks' latest video, and this is so bad. Someone at EW, I think I read it out to you the other day, actually said that the film is brilliant and controversial. Ping Pong Flicks said it's going to be huge and bad, or something like that. And I just thought that was amazing. Now, I like Chris Wong's Fence, and he's one of my inspirations for starting my own channel. But I think that's irresponsible. But these propaganda merchants who obviously stand Zack Snyder sometimes try and create fake propaganda, because they do believe if Reeves fails, if the multiverse strategy fails, then their man Zack Snyder comes back in. And as much as I love the Snyderverse and I want to restore the Snyderverse, I can tell you now that isn't going to wash with Warner Brothers, right? Even when Discovery come in, Discovery are only interested in one thing: making Warner Brothers Discovery the most successful outlet possible. Of course, there's something else they're very interested in as well. Going back to what the actual Warner Brothers created and the history of Warner Brothers. So that's very important to them as well. But going back to the box office of the Batman, listen, the hype is real. The box office is going to be huge. And it ain't doing it's going to do much more than $135 million, on opening weekend. And it's going to go beyond the 185 million projected. It's going to do more. That's what I believe. Now, this is projections are a very dangerous game. I remember the projections for Justice League. They were huge. They were a lot huger than it ended up getting, because the film was terrible. The reviews weren't great. Some tried to pad the reviews, we know that, to make it look more positive than it was. But people ain't stupid. People knew that Zack Snyder had been betrayed and they weren't going to support that movie. And when they saw the movie, they knew it was pretty much a terrible attempt at a Justice League movie. So those projections that we saw, they would have come true if Zack Snyder's Justice League was released. They probably would have even done better than those projections. But the projections for the Batman, and why I'm so confident it's going to, let's not say quadruple. I'm not a maths person anyway, but what I will say is it's going to, I think we're going to get a 230 million opening weekend or around that, just under that or just around that. That's my prediction for the Batman. Now, it's all very well getting a huge opening domestic weekend, and of course that is important because it holds you in good stead for the future. You need a huge opening, or you can't do the billion or 2 billion or just under 2 billion that these studios want to make. And so what's important is that people actually like this movie. In fact, Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice had a huge opening weekend, but people didn't go back and watch the movie because of its controversies, because some people found it boring. Yes, I love Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, but the central audience, the mainstream audience, didn't embrace the film and didn't go back and watch it. And that was the issue with that film. It was it broke box office records in its opening, right? People went to check out the movie, but then didn't go back, or enough people didn't go back to check out the movie. It made just under $1 billion. A Batman and a Superman movie can't be making just under $1 billion. It's got to be making Spider-Man No Way Home money. It's got to be making Force Awakens money. That's the fact. And when they title a film Superman or Man of Steel, they expect that film to make at least $1 billion. But this Batman film, I think, is going to be history making within its box office, because first of all, I think this will be the hugest Batman movie ever financially, the hugest Batman origin movie financially, and all it took was someone like Matt Reeves to come in, and it's not all it took because his reputation is huge. And unfortunately, the difference between Matt Reeves and Zack Snyder, his reputation, well, people like him, people trust him. And because Snyder's a deconstructor, it's different, right? And when you're dealing with iconic characters, being a deconstructor doesn't help the studio, doesn't help the IP. As much as I love Snyder and enjoyed what he did, because I understand that he deconstructs so he can reconstruct. I get it. But the pie eaters at the back will never get it. And they're the people you need to please. So Matt Reeves, no matter what people think about this dark take of this Batman film, blah-de-blah-de-blah, and people calling it a horror movie, blah-de-blah-de-blah, and there are elements of horror in this film. Of course there are, but he's not a deconstructor. He is a lover of the comics. He likes the comics. He holds the comics up there, and he's trying to do his own thing, of course, but ultimately he's trying to bring in a comic book vibe. This is why he's working on this new Batman, the animated series, with his good friend J.J. Abrams. He's a lover of the comics, and he won't stray too far from the Bible that is the comics, and that's the interesting element of it. So I want your comments down below, and I'm not just saying this, I want to see some comments, I want to see some interactions. How much money do you think the Batman will make on opening weekend domestically? I'm saying around 230 million. This movie financially is going to be huge. We continue with the vibe of the Batman on today's DCEU Daily, and this is an interesting article by Dan Zitsky of Screen Rant. The Batman video reveals new Riddler dialogue taunting Bruce Wayne. The Riddler wants to reach Bruce Wayne in a creepy new video clip marking 1 month until the release of Matt Reeves' The Batman. The Riddler taunts Bruce Wayne in creepy fashion in a new The Batman video clip. Robert Pattinson dons the cowl as Matt Reeves takes over the directorial reins on the newest big screen outing for the framed comic book Caped Crusader. And Bruce Wayne is of course not the only DC character returning to movie screens. When the Batman swings into action, the Riddler is back as well, with Paul Dano taking on the role last played in the movies by Jim Carrey. The Penguin gets another chance on the big screen too, with Colin Farrell embodying the character once played by Danny DeVito, as does Catwoman, as played now by Zoe Kravitz. Fans who have been made breathless with anticipation by recent trailers and other teases for the Batman only have 1 month left to wait until the movie finally hits screens. As they're reminded in the new clip just posted to the Batman on Twitter, that just dropped video naturally features plenty of previously seen footage from the new movie, while also including some voice-over from the Riddler as he taunts his adversary Bruce Wayne. The video also gently reminds fans that it's almost time to buy their tickets so they won't be left out in the cold when the Batman arrives. See the clip in the space below. So we're not going to do that for copyright purposes, but we are going to keep on reading this. At the very beginning of the new clip, the Riddler can be heard saying, "I've been trying to reach you," in a tinny voice. This line of dialogue is of course interesting in the light of the recently released funeral scene clip, which features the Riddler sending Batman a message in the least subtle way possible. Clearly the Riddler wants the attention of Gotham's mysterious defender, and he isn't concerned about how much mayhem he has to unleash in the course of reaching out. This taunting message sending aspect of the Riddler is of course inspired by real life infamous character the Zodiac Killer, who famously taunted police with encrypted messages during his killing spree in the 1970s. But a Zodiac-inspired villain isn't the only dark and gritty aspect of the Batman, as it also features a brooding and reclusive Bruce Wayne, inspired by the music of Nirvana and the life of Kurt Cobain. There have of course been dark and gritty Batman movies before, but Reeves' take on the character may be the darkest yet. But is there such a thing as a Batman movie that's simply too dark? Given its apparently intense tone and reported almost 3-hour runtime, the Batman may be about to put fans of the Caped Crusader through a test far more grueling than anything the Riddler could dream up to vex Bruce Wayne with. So, interesting. So yes, in this clip, he's sending a message. He wants Bruce Wayne's, aka the Batman's, attention. But this is not a villain who's mocking the police or Bruce Wayne. This is not about mocking. This is about sending messages. This is about someone using theatricality and dramatic tactics to try and uncover the same mystery that Bruce Wayne is trying to uncover. The element really of this film is, yes, the Riddler is kind of the villain, if you like, the archetypal villain of this movie, but the real villain of this movie is the mystery. That's the real thing that's going on here. So there's this cat and mouse element between Paul Dano's Ed Nashton, aka the Riddler, between him and Bruce Wayne, aka the Batman, but there's a deeper story in this film, and this is what makes this movie so fascinating. So it's a double-pronged story, if you like. Yes, the Riddler and the Batman are going after each other. The Riddler is killing people, sending Bruce messages, but the real villain of the movie is beyond the Riddler. And it may or may not be revealed by the end of the movie. Now we move on to Peacemaker. Peacemaker episodes 7 and 8 will be very explosive, teases Star. Now this is something I've been talking about over on Twitter at Movies TV Mad for a very long time. Something is going on massive, not just for Peacemaker and James Gunn's The Suicide Squad IP, but something that involves the DCEU. James Gunn even liked some Superman artwork on Twitter. Is he sending us some clues? Interesting. Anyway, Peacemaker star Chukwudi Iwuji teases what audiences can expect from the series' final episodes 7 and 8 and hints at a chaotic season finale by Brady and Whistle of Scream Rant. Peacemaker star Chukwudi Iwuji is teasing the show's explosive upcoming final episodes. Created by James Gunn, the series premiered on HBO Max in January and centres around the titular DC Comics character. Following his appearance in 2021's The Suicide Squad, set after the events of the film, Peacemaker follows the nationalistic anti-hero Christopher Smith as he joins the Black Ops team known as Project Butterfly. Targeting extraterrestrial parasitic creatures, Iwuji plays Clemson Mern, a mercenary and leader of the operation who is secretly a butterfly himself. Thanks for that spoiler. Too late now, the cat's out of the bag. Opposite of John Cena's Christopher Smith Peacemaker, the series also stars Danielle Brooks, Freddie Stormer, Jennifer Holland, Steve Agee and Robert Patrick. Peacemaker has been noted for its strong sense of humour and graphic action that separates it from other superhero television shows of its kind. Episode 6, titled Mern After Reading, was promised to be the series' craziest one yet and featured some memorable moments. Following Leota Adebayo's discovery of Mern, he reveals to her that the butterflies intend to take over Earth, but that he is a dissenter. Adebayo also learns that Amelia and John were aware of Mern's identity, and a confrontation between Peacemaker, Adrian and the Evergreen police result in Sophie's song. Eventually the entire force is possessed and publicly calling for Peacemaker's apprehension. Gunn included a number of DC Easter eggs in Peacemaker episode 6, as well as comically mentioning the hero's previous interactions with the Flash and Wonder Woman. He's already done it with Batman and Superman, so it's cool for me. This is a way of saying we are in the same universe as these iconic characters, and that's a good thing. It ain't a problem to me. In an interview with TV Insider, Iwuji hinted at even more chaos in Peacemaker episodes 7 and 8. When asked about what is to come in the series, the actor says that viewers can expect the show's conclusion to be explosive and that the humour will be taken up a notch. Iwuji also praised Gunn's ability to ensure that a strong sense of heart comes through in his often ultra-violent and cursing-heavy scenes. Read Iwuji's full quote below. Let me just put it this way. We only have 2 episodes to wrap up a lot of stuff. You can imagine it's going to be very explosive, literally and figuratively explosive. Chaos is going to reign. Hilarity is going to be taken to another level. But at the heart of it, if you excuse the pun, is the heart. James Gunn always somehow manages to infuse heart in the most unlikely moments, and there's a hell of a lot of that left in the final moments. Anticipation for the Peacemaker finale is high among audiences, especially after Gunn refused to allow HBO Max to send it out to the press ahead of time, and even kept the final cut secret from the cast. That news has led a lot of fans to theorise about what exactly could happen in Peacemaker episode 8. One common guess is that the series will introduce an important character from the DC Extended Universe. I agree, this is going to happen. Be ready, don't miss it. Which Peacemaker's references to other heroes throughout the series might already be alluding to, or that it will establish a DC multiverse. There are also ideas surrounding surprising character deaths or pivotal twists that could radically affect Peacemaker as a whole. Yes, as I said, I believe Peacemaker is set after the Flashpoint movie. And I think maybe they're going to reveal that as well by the end of this. I think anything we're seeing this year, not including the Batman, because they're a self-contained Earth, of course, is set after the Flash movie. This means that Peacemaker is set after the Flash movie. Black Adam is set after the Flash movie. And Aquaman, of course, and the Lost Kingdom is also set after the Flash movie, as is Batgirl, which I think will be released on HBO Max this December. So I think everything this year we're seeing is set after the Flash movie, which I think is very, very interesting. Whether Peacemaker presents a shocking twist, the initiation of significant DCEU developments, or something else in its finale is yet to be seen, but Gunn certainly has a plan for it to be big. With the creator already saying Peacemaker Season 2 is likely, it will be interesting to see just how much the final episodes impact the Suicide Squad spin-off story, and whether all of its cast members survive the explosive developments. Fans of Peacemaker and DC Comics will find out soon enough, since the top secret episode 8 isn't far away. So I wanted to read that out to you because I've been shouting from the rooftops for a very long time that something really huge is happening with Peacemaker. The response and reaction to it has been great. And let me just say this. It doesn't matter if it's the most popular streaming show in the world right now, or the second or the third. Peacemaker is part of Walter Hamada's brand new initiative. He brought in Gunn very intelligently after Gunn was temporarily fired by Disney, and we all know why by now. No point going into it. So he's part of Walter's, initial, future initiative, and they're working together to, flesh out the rest of the DCEU. Walter's also working with Ann Sarnoff very closely, and, the legend, the DC legend, the DC legendary comic book artist, Jim Lee, as well. There's a plan here, and I really believe this. I believe episode 8 is being kept under wraps because something huge is going to be revealed. Don't be surprised if Ezra Miller's Flash cameos quickly in this as well. But something's happening, something very, very kind of connective to the DC Extended Universe. You should be very excited about the future of DC live action. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification button so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you again tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. Until then, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.